All right guys, welcome back to the channel. Jared at 3Cs, and we're gonna do a beta tech tip video on the preload adjuster made by XTrig. And typically didn't do a lot of these in the past, but we're starting to really enjoy this. And the main reason is because the Sachs shock, and this is off a 2023 beta 4-stroke RS model, so it's a street legal bike. The problem is this body of the shock actually unthreads from the top portion where it goes into the frame. So you can see this customer was trying to adjust his sag by turning these knobs with the spring. We have a new spring here for him as well. And when you're trying to adjust your sag, you're hitting the punch against this, and it's actually turning this whole body and loosening it up from the upper clamp here. So he actually separated it far enough that he lost all of his fluid out of here. And it happened to me. I was in Colorado riding with a gentleman, and I already have a video on this on the channel, but right there, up in the middle there, that's where it separated. It was right up in the middle. And so it's important that we kind of talk about this again, because I've seen quite a few shocks have this happen. And I understand it, you're trying to adjust your sag and you don't want it, take it completely out of the bike. So it takes like 20 minutes to get your shock out, 20 minutes to get the shock back in. And we've always been told, or it's always been common knowledge, that you can just do it in the bike. But it's not the case with the new Sachs shocks. You cannot do it while it's in the bike. And so that's where this cool piece comes into play. Now these are like $205, I think, for something like this, but it was like $100 for me to have his shock put back together. So it's probably worth just doing this right from the beginning, and then you have really quick and easy shock adjusting while you own the bike. So I thought I would do a quick install video. I did not see the install directions on the beta website. I went to their accessory tab. They don't show this part number AB10277-19 on their website. So I thought we would do it. And their directions are, I don't know, finicky. So there's different styles of these clamps. For the Sachs shock, we actually use a separate ring up on here, and we'll show that in a second. Where if you do the KYB shocks, I'll throw an image in there right now. I'll pull it off the beta website. It's all one piece, and it kind of rides on the piggyback, and that's what keeps it from turning. But we're gonna install this. So quick side note is I don't have my microphones and I don't have my gimbal, because the guys are all at a hard enduro this weekend in southern Kentucky, and I let them take all my stuff. So we got one hand on the camera and one hand showing you guys what we're gonna do. So first thing we're gonna do with this shock is we're gonna spin this completely off the rest of the way. So you can see that we've already disassembled the old shock spring. This came off. The spring was slid off, and now we're gonna turn this off the rest of the way. So I already have it pretty far down, so I was trying to make it simple for the video here. We're gonna spin this all the way off. So there's one. You can see I'm unthreading them. There's quite a bit of threads left on the upper one there. And I usually have Braxton with me, but I sent him to the Kentucky Hard Enduro as well with the guys. So it's kind of just me at the shop this morning, Saturday morning, trying to knock this out. I already did a shock spring, or his fork springs. You can see we already did that for him. And so we'll get this off. So now that they are completely loose, we can slide them right off the bottom here. And we will not need this little washer. I'll show you in a second here. So upper, lower washer. We're gonna take these pieces and just slide them over here. And this is important, and it's kind of nice that I have an actual bike sitting right there. You can see that we actually want this orientation for the shock. And so we want this adjuster to be right about here, so we can actually get to it while it's in the bike, if that makes sense. So we can actually use an 8mm and get on there and install this. So we're gonna take this ring. This is the first thing we're gonna do, and I need to loosen this Allen key. So I'll do that now. Okay, so we got our Allen key loosened up. So now this will slide past the threads. If it's fully clamped in, it's not gonna slide on. So we'll slide this up on here. And you can see how it's sliding past the threads now because we loosened it. So we'll just carefully get it up past there. If it doesn't want to slide easily, please don't force it. Loosen your Allen key more. There's no reason to hurt those threads. So we're gonna, at the end, we're gonna get this so it's right down here at the bottom where the threads meet. And the reason for this clamp that's gonna get pinched on here is it's gonna guide, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm gonna guide it on this pin, and that's what's gonna keep it, when it's on the shock, it's gonna go up or down with it here. And that'll keep this whole assembly from twisting. So now we're gonna slide this up on the shock as well. And this isn't super important yet, orientation, because I can still slide this up out of the way. And I'm gonna keep pressure on it so that way the threads are straight on the shock body. So I'm gonna hold it up with that hand. You can see it takes quite a while for this to happen, but it's going up on the threads. So I'm gonna thread this all the way up to the shock here. So we used our drill and we threaded this all the way up. So we went as high as we could without hurting the threads because we need as much room in here to slide our spring on. So the first thing before we tighten any of this down is we're gonna get our spring up on here and get our cup on the bottom. So we're gonna get the shock assembled first and then we'll get this adjusted where we want it. So we now have the shock spring installed, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide this down, the collar down, because that's gonna keep everything from spinning on us. We're gonna slide down as far as we can. And I think I have my orientation exactly how I want it, so luckily I have the bike behind me. We want to be able to get to this right in the bike. So we're going to have it right about there. Pretty much as far this way as you can, just still sneak your Allen key in there. So we're going to just tighten this upper pinch clamp up. That'll keep everything else from spinning on us. And I can't set the actual sag for the customer because he brought us the suspension out of the box. But at this point, all we would be doing is actually putting this back in the bike and then adjusting the sag. So let's get this up in there all the way. Sorry guys, I only have one hand for this whole video. It's been interesting. I don't have all my tools. So that's how you install this thing. And so at this point, we would take our 8mm and we would just thread this down to get our rider sag exactly where we want it. So that was just the XTrig shock adjuster, and this is for the Sachs shock. Like I said, the KYB is a little bit different design, but thank you guys for watching. If you found it helpful, please consider subscribing. I'm Jared from 3C's Recreation, and we'll talk to you soon.